salatu wassalamu ala rasulillahi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Thumma amma ba'd. Once again, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Oh boy, we have a lot of stuff to cover. This section is called oaths, qasam, when Allah swears by something in the Quran. And this is a very, very interesting study in the entire Quran. There are lots of places where Allah takes an oath. So I am going to give you some notes on the oath in the Quran and oaths in general that will help you understand this subject in the Quran. It really adds a different dimension of beauty to Allah's book. So the first thing I want to give you a few observations, a few pointers on is oaths in general. Oaths in general. When does someone say, I swear? What do you think? Huh? When you're angry? I swear, if you say that one more time. So you can swear when you are angry. Generally. This is not just in Arabic. You can do that in English. You can do that in Spanish. You can do it in Punjabi. You can do it in Urdu. You can probably do it in Basa. I don't know. I just found out you guys don't have past tense and present tense. I'm still shocked about that one. You have no tense. So my entire conversation on Friday night, I don't know what you thought about that, because so when you tell someone, I'll take care of it, it's the same as I took care of it, which means you never know what's going on. How do you do this? Now I just out of curiosity, I have to learn it. Anyway, you can take an oath when you're angry. I swear, man, you better stop. Wallahi. When you're not being believed, you come 3 hours late to work, your boss looks at you, I swear it was traffic. I swear. I swear to God, it was traffic. In other words, you swear when you're not being believed. When somebody thinks you're lying, then you swear. You also swear when you're in court. Yes? I swear to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth, most of the truth, so help me God. Right? So you swear when you're in court. Okay? Three is good enough. Then oaths in Old Arabic. Oaths in Old Arabic include the first three, but there's one more. Okay? And oaths in Old Arabic, their purpose is to get your attention. How do you get attention of someone in English? Hey! Hur! Hur! In Urdu you say, Oi! Different languages have different ways of doing it. In Arabic you say, You get somebody's attention. How do you guys do it? How do you get somebody's attention? Huh? Just one person, man. There's too many. It's like Abu Bakr. It's like Abu Bakr right now. However you do it. Hey, yo. Whatever it is you do. The Arabs would do it by swearing by something. They would say, I swear by the sun. What happened? That's their way of getting someone's attention. Okay, they'll take an oath to get somebody's attention. We don't do this in normal languages. Now, oaths in the Quran. In addition to all four of these, which are true of the Quran, sometimes Allah swears when He's angry. Sometimes Allah swears to illustrate that He's not being believed. People aren't taking what He's saying seriously enough. The swears about court, I'll explain in a second how that works in the Quran, but what I want to tell you is they are used as evidence when the object of the oath is used as evidence. Now that sounds complicated, but inshallah, it'll become simpler in the next couple of minutes. I need you to understand two things: object of the oath and subject of the oath. If you understand these two things, the subject will become easy in the Quran. There are two parts of an oath in the Quran. There's the object of the oath and there is the subject of the oath. So when I say, وَالْعَصْرِ إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ, Allah says, I swear by what? I swear by time, human beings are in trouble, then what that means is the object of the oath is time. The object of the oath is time, and the subject of the oath is human beings are in loss. The human being is in loss. You understand? So the object is the thing that he's swearing by. So if you say, I swear by the sun, I swear by the moon, I swear by the stars, I swear by Allah, I swear by this, I swear by that, whatever you swear by is the object. Then after you say your object, whatever you say next is your subject. And it's correct that it correctly called the subject of the oath because that's actually what you wanted to talk about. The object of the oath was not your discussion. That wasn't your subject. It wasn't your purpose, your topic. Your actual topic was what comes next. Like for instance, when somebody's talking to you, you say, I swear to God. And they stop. You didn't say anything. Once you used Allah as the object of your oath, you have to say, I swear to God, I love ice cream. You have to say something to make a subject out of it, you understand? So there are two parts of it always, object and subject. Now, another thing to note here for other than the Quran in Arab culture, from old times, from thousands of years ago until now in Arab culture, swearing by Allah is not a big deal. Swearing by Allah is not a big deal. In Indian culture, in Pakistani culture, in Bangladeshi culture, I don't even know about Malay culture, but in these Southeast Asian cultures, swearing by Allah is really bad. Somebody says, I swear by Allah, like, do istighfar, go slaughter a goat, you swore by Allah. But your Syrian friend and your Jordanian friend and your Algerian friend and your Egyptian friend, what do they say all the time? Wallahi, Wallahi man, it's hot today, Wallahi. Wallahi, it's hot. So, Wallahi, I love football. Wallahi, England lost so bad. You know, Wallahi, anything, no big deal. And somebody else who's like super high on their taqwa, like, Wallahi, you said Wallahi, astaghfirullah, you said Wallahi. No, it's no big deal. Allah says in the Quran, "La yu'akhidukum Allahu bil-laghwi fi aymanikum." No problem. Allah will not hold you to account when you take an oath by His name when you didn't really mean it. It's fine. It's just part of your culture. It's fine. No big deal. If you really meant it, then you'll be held to account. You know, when some people say, you swore by Allah, now you have to do it. Like, Wallahi, I'm going to kill you, man. Like, friends are messing with each other. One guy is elbowing the other. Wallahi, man, stop it. I'm going to kill you. Wallahi. Now he took an oath. So he shows up with a dagger the next day. I'm sorry, bro. I swore to God. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. You don't have to do that. Relax. Okay? But now let's come back to the oaths in the Quran. Here's the really cool thing. The object of the oath in the Quran serves as evidence for the subject of the oath. I'll say that again. The object of the oath becomes evidence for the subject of the oath. Another way of saying that is, the object of the oath prepares you for the subject of the oath. So actually Allah uses a particular object for His oath to get you ready for what He's going to say. And He might even use it as evidence for what He's going to say. So the study of the relationship between the object and the subject becomes a very interesting study in the Quran. It's a very interesting relationship between the object and the subject. Easy example, وَالْعَصْرِ. What does He say? إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ. I swear by time, each and every human being is in loss. So what's the object again? Time. The fact that time is running out is the ultimate evidence that human beings are in loss. Right? So it's serving as the subject, or it's serving as proof of the subject. So with that in mind, let's look at a couple of subjects and objects of the oath. Allah says, فَلَا أُقْسِمُ بِالشَّفَقِ. No. I swear by the orange sky. وَاللَّيْلِ وَمَا وَسَقْ. And the night as it gets super dark. وَالْقَمَرِ إِذَا اتَّسَقْ. And when I swear by the moon as it slowly becomes full. Meaning day by day it becomes full. There are three oaths here. The first oath was, I swear by the orange, the sky that turns orange. The second oath was, I swear by the night as it gets really dark. It gets darker and darker and becomes fully dark. Then I swear by the moon that goes from the lightest phase, where you're fighting over Eid, to full moon. It goes over those phases. Then he says, لَتَرْكَبُنَّ طَبْقًا عَنْ طَبَقٍ. You people are going to ride one stage after the next, after the next, after the next, after the next. What is the relationship between these things? When the sky is orange, when the sky is turning orange, that means that it's close to sunfall. Maghrib is around the corner, yes? Maghrib is inevitable. I mean, the sky is orange, but you know what's coming. What's coming next? Nightfall. And the nightfall is in the next ayah. The night comes and the night is kind of blue, but it gets dark blue, and it gets darker blue, and it gets darker blue until it becomes what? Black. وَاللَّيْلِ وَمَا وَسَقْ. So the color started from orange, and the gradient of color went from orange eventually all the way to black. But it didn't go from orange to black. It went from orange to red, to purple, to blue, to dark blue. You see what I'm saying? There was a progression. When it's super black, the sky is completely black, what does Allah start talking about? The moon. And the moon one night in the black sky, the moon is really thin, then it gets a little fatter, then it gets a little fatter, then it gets a little fatter, then it starts looking like a banana, then it looks a little fatter, then it looks like a piece of mangosteen, then it gets a little fatter, then it turns into a coin, right? Progression. And when you see the moon like that, and every time you see the orange sun, is the process going to repeat itself? Which means one thing will lead to another, will lead to another, will lead to another. Then Allah says, by the way, just like that, you will go from one stage to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next. Just like the orange sky turns colors, you one time were living inside the stomach of your mother. The rent was paid, the food was paid for, air conditioning was provided. You didn't have to take care of anything, you didn't have to clean anything. You could have lived there forever, but you know what? Just like the orange sky turns colors, you had to leave that home eventually. And you did. When you were a baby, everything was still kind of taken care of. You didn't have to even burp yourself, clean your own poo, everything was taken care of. But you started growing older and older, and you went from the diaper to the pull-up to the pants, and then eventually you're standing up and you're walking and you're talking. And you were a kid, you didn't have responsibility, but you can't stay a kid forever. And you got older, and you had to go to school. And from school you had to go to high school, and from high school you had to go to college, and from college you had to go get a job, and then hopefully get married and have children and get old and watch your children get old or older. You know? You go from one stage to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next, and then eventually you're going to die, and then you're going to go in the grave, and then your body's going to deteriorate. And then just like that, the next stage will come and Allah will raise you out of your grave. You can't help it. Just like you couldn't stay inside the stomach of your mother, you will not stay inside the stomach of the earth. It will give you birth again. You will come out again. Then you will stand in front of Allah and the questioning will happen. And there is no way out of this. There is no way out of this. And if you ever forget that there's no way out of this, just look at the orange sky next time. The orange sky should remind you, you're going to go from one stage to the next, to the next, to the next. The other meaning of this ayah, which is really beautiful, is that the Prophet ﷺ is making da'wah in Mecca. Doesn't seem like he's making much progress. People are not accepting Islam in huge numbers. Actually, the enemies are getting worse and worse. And yet Allah is telling him, listen, this is part of how progression happens. Eventually some more, eventually some more, eventually some more. And maybe in the beginning your efforts will be like a thin moon, but as the time progresses it'll become full like the full moon. Eventually all of victory will come. Maybe we should learn that lesson and understand what Allah is saying to the entire ummah. People get really easily depressed about the state of the ummah and the corruption and the political chaos and the wars and the famine and the hunger and the civil war and all the strife that's happening inside the ummah. May Allah protect our mothers and our children and our fathers and our families all over this ummah, right? But we get depressed about that, and Allah is saying, look, things are bad, but you have to go through stages. One after another, after another. The other idea here is, by the way, when the moon is full, does it deteriorate again? Sure. When the night is dark, does day come back again? In other words, even when you do get to a point where you have victory and you have everything's working out, is it going to last forever? No, that is the nature of life. There's up and there's down, and there's up and there's down. Islam is not asking you to be perfect or to attain a perfect society. Islam is asking you to make efforts towards better and better. Allah will not judge you on how perfect you and I were. Allah will judge us on how much effort we made to make things better. That's what we're being judged on. It's a beautiful imagery captured inside these words. Then I want to share with you an example of another oath in the Quran. Let's talk about wal-adiyat. I think a lot of you saw the animation for wal-adiyat. Wal-adiyati dabha. Allah swears by horses that are going into battle. Horses that are going to go into battle. And adiyat, actually it's jam'u qilla. The at the end tells you that it's jam'u qilla. And the kinds of horses that are brewed for battle, they're trained to run extra fast. They're usually the female horse, the mare, because she's lighter and she runs faster. That's why adiyat is used. And they're aggressive. That's why the word ada is used here. They're aggressive horses. And the images, and when you use at, you're saying there are less than 10 of them. So I want to paint this picture for you. There are less than 10 horses that are riding super fast, and as they are riding, the hal of them is dabha. What that means is they're riding and they're panting. So this scene opens, this movie begins with horses riding and the cameras on their mouth and that's what's happening in wal-adiyati dabha. Then the camera goes to their feet. فَالْمُورِيَاتِ قَدْحًا. And I swear by them when they strike the rocks, the horseshoe hits a rock and sparks fly. Sparks fly when the shoe hits the rock. So the camera was on their mouth, now it's where? At their feet. فَالْمُورِيَاتِ قَدْحًا. فَالْمُغِيرَاتِ صُبْحًا. This is where things get interesting. فَالْمُغِيرَاتِ صُبْحًا. Then these horses that are running so fast that sparks are flying from their feet, they are about to raid a caravan, or they're about to raid the enemy. They're about to attack the enemy. Subha. Is that nighttime or morning time? That's the morning time. Now there are two problems with that. In the morning there's moisture in the air, which means the rocks have water on them. Which means it's even crazier that sparks are flying anyway, even though there's water on the rocks. That's how intensely fast the horses are running. The second problem is the best time to raid a caravan, since you have a lot of experience raiding caravans, the best time to raid a caravan is when? Nighttime. But these guys don't care. They want the enemy to see them coming. So they decide to raid the caravan when? In the morning. See, if you're small in number, then you have to hide in the darkness. You have to take advantage of the guerrilla style warfare, where you attack and you run away. But these guys don't care. It's like a suicide mission for them. They're going in anyway. They're coming in the morning. And by the way, by the morning, the enemy's forces and their security and their guard is up. They're ready. So he says, subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says, فَالْمُورِيَاتِ قَدْحًا فَالْمُغِيرَاتِ صُبْحًا. Then he says, فَأَثَرْنَ بِهِ نَقْعًا. Something even stranger. He says, as a result of those horses running so fast, they caused clouds of dust to rise. They're running so fast. I want you to see this camera. I want you to imagine I'm the soldier on the enemy side. I'm holding my spear and I'm ready for them because I'm going to stab the horse. And from a long distance, I don't see any horses, but what do I see? Dust rising, and I go, dust is rising. And eventually when they come in and attack the caravan or they attack the enemy, then there's going to be dust everywhere and you can't see what's going on. There's chaos. فَأَثَرْنَ بِهِ نَقْعًا. And in the chaos, these people come and what does Allah say? فَوَسَطْنَ بِهِ جَمْعًا. They penetrate the lines of the forces. They get right to the middle. Meaning, the enemy forces, they're in rows. File 1, file 2, file 3. These horses, they break through the lines and now they're in the middle of the enemy. So where's the enemy with respect to these horses now? It's all around, so the camera is giving you a 360 view. The enemy's all around them and they're in the middle. I told you yesterday that poetry was the entertainment industry of the Arabs. If they wanted to watch a movie, they listened to what? The poets. And these ayat, Allah did not tell me about taqwa or iman. Allah did not tell me about the akhirah. Allah did not teach me about halal and haram. Allah did not teach me about previous nations. Allah taught me about what? Battle horses. Who's really into battle horses? The mushrikun of Arabia. They're really into this stuff. And they're already thinking, wow, this is a pretty awesome movie. It began with an action scene. They're ready to go into battle. They hit the enemy. They get right into the middle of it and they're popping the popcorn and like, what happened next? Now, if you have ever seen a movie, of course you haven't, you're Muslims, but if you ever did see a movie, you would know there's such a thing as an action movie trailer. And in the action movie trailer, what they do is they try to get you excited. So they take the 2 scenes in the movie that are worth watching and they put that in the trailer. So you watch the rest of the garbage film. And in the movie, there's two guys that are about to fight each other, and this guy's running from this side, that guy's running from that side, and they're about to punch each other, but did they show the punch? Right before they punch each other, screen turns black. This June. Right? I'm like, come on! I want to see what happens to his face. Now I have to go, it's wajib now. You know? These guys, these horses, these Arabs, they really love their horses. They really love it. Like, you know, young men nowadays, they're into cars. They're into sports. They're into action movies. This is a combination of all of those things. Okay? And so this scene is painted and the Arab is waiting. So what happens next? Yo, what happens next? What happened? Tell me what happened. The mushrik is waiting for more Quran. Allah stopped the movie. He put a stop. He said, "Inna al-insana li rabbihi lakanud." No doubt the human being is not loyal to his master. What? What about the horse? Tell me more about the horse. What about human? I don't want to know about the human. I want to know about the horse. What is the connection between these horses and the human being? An animal has certain instincts. An animal's instinct is that when it sees danger, it runs the other way. An animal's instinct is that of survival. But the horse, this horse, is so loyal to his master that it sees the enemy's spears and still, as fast as it can, it runs towards its own death, doesn't it? So the Arab is listening to this story about how loyal the battle horse is. It is willing to sacrifice itself, run into death itself for the sake of who? The master. And Allah paints that scene and says, by the way, Arab who owns a horse, you also have a master, but you're not that loyal. Inna al-insana li rabbihi lakanud. The way Allah makes the argument, the way Allah set the scene for this lesson. He could have just said human beings aren't loyal. He could have just said that, but no, He wanted to give you some evidence. What does loyalty mean anyway? Do you have any idea what loyalty means? Oh yes, you do. You own a horse. And you've raided caravans before, so you know. So let me use what you know and teach you a lesson. Subhanallah. These are surahs of the Quran that teach us the legacy of the Quran is to relate to people when you teach them about your deen. You have to understand where people are coming from. Allah didn't just talk about the ghaib. Allah didn't just talk about, iman. Allah didn't just talk about taqwa. Allah also talked about things that interested the Arabs because they needed that stuff to hear so they can make sense of this deen. Allah chose to talk about things that would really, really spark their interest. This is a method of the Quran, which means we have to learn this method in our times to revive the interest in this deen. MashaAllah, there are so many of you sitting in the audience today, but there are so many Muslims here in this country and all over the world that are Muslims that are losing interest in their deen. They're not interested anymore. And our job as an ummah is to revive not only the non-Muslims' interest in this religion, but also the Muslims' interest in this religion, and we have to learn the legacy of the Quran in doing so. Maybe they're not into horses. Maybe they're into something else. And we need to know what they're into. And we need to use it to bring them back to the deen. Quran is not just knowledge, it is a way of thinking. You remember that? If it was just about knowledge, we'd always be talking about horses. But if it's about thinking, then we learn the strategy and apply it outside of it, at the text too. It becomes a way for us to process information. I'm hoping one of the benefits that comes out of today's discussions is you adopt a Quranic way of thinking. The Quran has a certain way it expects you to think, expects you to carry yourself in da'wah, expects you to process realities of life. I want to give you an introduction first, and I'll give you some examples. I want to take extra time on this section because all of the examples are beautiful. So I want to give you as many as I can, okay? Bear with me, we're going to be in this section for a while. Even if I have to compromise other sections, I would rather we spend some time in this section because it's just that cool, okay? I'll give you at least one before we take a break. The purpose of an example is as follows. A teacher gives an example because it makes the subject easy to understand for a student, right? Sometimes the subject matter in physics and mathematics and chemistry, whatever, is hard to understand. A good teacher will give you easy examples so you can relate to what he's saying, because the subject matter itself is too abstract, you can't relate to it. So what does it mean to give a good example? The conditions for a good example is easy to follow and relatable, right? And leads you to the point, meaning the lesson. Like you see the point for why the example was given. We have this interesting phenomenon in the United States that you are saved from here in Malaysia. I told you many of our masajid, we don't have imams. So people from the community have to give khutbah. And if you're living in New York and you're working in the financial district, some uncle, some elder from the community who's a financial analyst will give the khutbah. And if you're in Detroit and you're in the car sector, where the car companies are, some mechanical engineer is going to give the khutbah. And if you're working near a hospital at the masjid, a doctor is going to give a khutbah. And mashallah, they're giving good khutbahs, and they like to sometimes, get creative and give examples in their khutbah. But what happens a lot of times is they give examples that have to do with their own profession, and nobody understands what they're talking about. So the engineer says, Islam, taqwa, is like the piston of an engine. And you have to apply the pressure for the calibration of the, and I'm like, well. Then you go to the doctor khutbah. Iman is like blood pressure. And you're lost again. Then you go to the accounting khutbah. The day of judgment is like tax day. There's debit and there's credit, and there are tax breaks, and I finished the khutbah and I just filed my taxes afterwards. I don't know what else to do. In other words, people give examples sometimes, but unfortunately sometimes the examples, instead of making the subject easier, they end up making the subject harder. And sometimes the examples, this is a really fun one, when somebody comes and gives an example, and the example is so long and elaborate that they forget why they were giving the example. And then since they forget, nobody else knows what happened either, and then aqim as-salat. So, a good example should be easy to follow, makes sense. It should be straight to the point, that makes sense. And it should come back to the original lesson. Because you were there not to give an example, but the purpose of the example was to teach you a lesson. That's what it should be. Applying these rules, a German Orientalist, a scholar of Islam, a non-Muslim scholar of Islam, and a critic of Islam, Zübde-i, extensively wrote a criticism against the Quran, in which he talked about the fact that the Quran gives senseless examples, irrational examples. And his paper was based on this example. His paper was actually based on this ayah from Surah Al-Hajj. The ayah says, حُنَفَاءَ لِلَّهِ غَيْرَ مُشْرِكِينَ بِهِ, people that are solely dedicated to Allah while they don't do any shirk with Him. وَمَنْ يُشْرِكْ بِاللَّهِ, and whoever would commit the crime of shirk with Allah, whoever would associate anybody else with Allah, فَكَأَنَّمَا خَرَّ مِنَ السَّمَاءِ, then it is as though he fell from the sky. So the guy who does the crime of blasphemy with God, associates someone with Allah, is compared to someone who is falling from the sky. Zübde-i says that doesn't make any sense. Nobody ever falls from the sky. An example is supposed to be relatable. Who can relate to someone falling from space? Then he says, the Quran says, فَتَخَطَّفُهُ الطَّيْرِ, then birds are chewing on him. He's falling from the sky, and then birds are coming and they're eating from him while he's falling from the sky. That makes even less sense. What kind of birds are these that are eating a guy as he's falling from the sky? This is the weirdest scene ever. فَتَخَطَّفُهُ الطَّيْرِ. Then on top of that, the ayah ends, أَوْ تَهْوِي بِهِ الرِّيحِ فِي مَكَانٍ سَحِيقٍ, or finally, the wind blows him away to an uncharted location. He says if you're falling from the sky, whether you fall somewhere unknown in the middle of the woods, in the middle of the jungle, you fall on top of a mountain, or you fall in the middle of Times Square in New York City, what difference does it make? You're dead. It doesn't make any sense. And he wrote this very convincing paper about how the example of the Quran is impossible to relate to. It's difficult to relate to. The problem here is there's a lack of appreciation of verbal idioms, of expressions of the Arabic language. I'm going to give you a little bit of a picture. This ayah is about people who do shirk. Yes? People who do shirk in Makkah, they had no concept of afterlife. A lot of them did not believe in another life. This is the only life. This is the only life. Let me tell you something else about the people who do shirk in Arabia at the time. Not only did they believe this is the only life, when you believe this is the only life, then what is going to be left of you after you're gone? Think about that. What of you is left after you're gone? Your children? Maybe your name, your memory, your legacy, right? If you don't believe in an afterlife, human beings have a desire to live on. You know that? Inherently, we have a desire to live on. So if you don't believe in Jannah and Jahannam and Qiyamah, you don't believe in any of that stuff, then you know what you say to yourself? I need to figure out a way to live on. So what do people do when they don't believe in an afterlife? They decide that they're going to do something that will force people to remember their name. So nowadays you'll have people that are very wealthy and they're 99 years old and they're about to die and they donate all of their wealth to a hospital. They were cheap their entire life. They kept millions to themselves that they never spent. But as soon as they're about to die, they give the whole thing to charity, like it's a really generous thing to do. Generous? You weren't going to have it. You're dead. But they give it, why? Because they put a condition. If I give this to this hospital, you have to build a statue of me at the entrance of the hospital that says the really old dead guy College of Medicine. Why do they do this? They need their name to live on. There's a desire for a human being to become immortal. And actually, Allah put that desire in us because He wants us to earn Jannah. That's inside of us, to want to earn His paradise. But anyway, let's go back to the mushrik. The mushrik back in the day is not going to give millions of dollars in donation and get his monument made. How did he live on forever? He lived on forever because for the Arabs, you know that they used to love going into fights, right? Battles. And so he wants to live on by the legend of his fight skills. He's big on fight skills. Now let's paint this picture. There are two tribes that are going into battle. One tribe is on top of the mountain, the other tribe is at the bottom of the mountain. Who's got the military advantage? People on top. The people at the bottom, even though the people on top had the advantage, the people on the bottom climbed up all the way to the top of the mountain, defeated the tribe at the top of the mountain, and not only did they defeat them, they threw their dead bodies off the cliff as an added humiliation. And the other scenario is that the people on top of the cliff, they were so scared to fight the guys at the bottom, though they had to pick, should I die at the hand of my enemy or should I just jump off the cliff? And they decided to jump off the cliff. When the Arabs died a death because they were no good at fighting or because they were cowards, then they used to say he fell from the sky. They used to say what? He fell from the sky. Meaning he died the death of a loser or he died the death of a coward. And the worst thing, the worst, most humiliating thing the mushrik could ever hear about his father, or about his grandfather, or about his son, is you're that guy's dad? Or the guy who fell from the sky? The worst humiliation for him. Because understand, shirk is humiliating. It's a humiliating thing to do shirk. But the mushrikun don't understand what the humiliation of Judgment Day will look like. They don't believe in it. So they have to be given a picture that they can relate to. So Allah gave them a picture they can relate to. What's the closest thing to humiliation they can relate to? The association of someone falling from the sky. Now in a battle, when somebody falls from the cliff, which is what they call falling from the sky, when somebody falls from a cliff, his dead body is at the bottom, mangled and broken up and bloodied. What happens at the end of ancient battles? Your own people come, they collect your body and they give it a proper burial. Isn't that the case? But these dead soldiers, these dead warriors are such an embarrassment to their own people that nobody came to bury them. Nobody came. Their own people disowned them. So their funeral service was not offered by their own tribes. Their funeral service was offered by certain birds. What kinds of birds are we talking about? Vultures. Birds are chewing on their corpse. And these birds are known for eating disgusting things, isn't it? But even these birds, after a while of eating from them, say, the rest of that is way too dirty even for me. I don't even want it. And they fly away. What comes next? Winds come. And the little scum that's left of these people is blown off to uncharted locations. Humiliation of falling from the sky, humiliation of vultures eating off of your corpse, and the humiliation of your flesh and bones being scattered on the earth to unknown places. For the Arab who didn't believe in an afterlife, the only thing he wanted was, at least people will respect me after I'm gone. The worst thing he could imagine has been described. An example is supposed to be direct, it's supposed to be relatable. What we are learning here is that it was directly relatable to the Arabs. And once we understand that principle, we understand that we want to give examples to people and help things become understandable for people. We have to give relatable examples, which means we have to understand the culture in which we live, or the culture that we are giving da'wah to be able to relate to where they're coming from. You understand? That's the lesson in this ayah. You guys doing okay? Can you handle one more, or should I give you a break? One more? One more. Okay, one more. Promise one more. This one's, of the examples, this one's my favorite. Listen to the translation. ثُمَّ قَسَتْ قُلُوبُكُم مِّن بَعْدِ ذَلِكَ. Then your hearts became hard, even after that had happened. فَهِيَ كَالْحِجَارَةِ. Then your hearts became like stone. أَوْ أَشَدُّ قَسْوَةً. Or they became even harder than stone. فَإِنَّ مِنَ الْحِجَارَةِ لَمَا يَتَفَجَّرُ مِنْهُ الْأَنْهَارِ. Even out of stones, there are some stones that explode. Rivers explode out of them. Waterfalls gush out of boulders. وَإِنَّ مِنْهَا لَمَا يَشَّقَّقُ فَيَخْرُجُ مِنْهُ الْمَاءِ. And even out of stones, there are those that crack open. They don't explode open, they just crack open. And some water is found inside. Some water comes out. Not rivers come out, some water comes out. وَإِنَّ مِنْهَا لَمَا يَهْبِطُ مِنْ خَشْيَةِ اللَّهِ. And out of stones there are those that fall from the fear of Allah. وَمَا اللَّهُ بِغَافِلٍ عَمَّا تَعْمَلُونَ. And Allah is not at all unaware of the things you're up to, what you're doing. Okay? Seems like this example has to do with lots of different kinds of what? Stones. Stones that explode, stones that crack open, and stones that fall from the fear of Allah. But actually the ayah did not begin with stones. The ayah said in the beginning, your hearts became hard, your hearts became like stone, or even worse than stone. So it's actually not three kinds of rocks that we're learning about. We're actually learning about three kinds of hearts. The rocks are being compared to hearts. In order to understand this example better, I'm going to give you a little bit of a conversation about your friends. You have two friends. Somebody says, I have no friends. Just pretend, okay? Just pretend. Even you have two friends. One of your friends is very quiet, loves to read, very philosophical. If they speak, she's just reading some line of poetry from somewhere. When you take them to a party, they just go sit next to the bookshelf and just read. They're always thinking to themselves. Just a philosophical, quiet, introverted person. You have one of those friends. You have another friend. That friend is never quiet. They never sit in one place. Actually, this been a very painful experience for them sitting here today. They're constantly, hey, I'll be right back. They need to move around. And they're constantly texting you, hey, you want to go out? You want to get some pizza? You want to go somewhere? You want to do something? What are you doing? I'm not doing anything. Can I come over? You want to come over? Let's do something. They're always busy. They're always moving. I got to do something. Let's go fishing. Let's go hiking. Let's go. Okay? So you have this quiet friend and you have this hyperactive friend. And the three of you go on a road trip together. So you're driving in the car together, and the friend who's hyperactive is like, hey, I'm hungry. Let's go stop somewhere. Let's go look at something. And the guy, the quiet one, what's he doing? He's sitting in the back reading, or he's looking out at the sky. He's thinking about the universe. And he turns to you and he says, have you ever wondered about the sky? And the other friend goes, no, but I've wondered about the signs. Where's the sign for the next restaurant? I'm hungry. What do we do? Now, you guys, the three of you are going to attend an Islamic conference. Okay? You're going to attend an Islamic conference. Do you guys know who Imam Siraj Wahhaj is, by the way? Some of you know. Well, if you don't know, you should know. Look him up. Imam Siraj Wahhaj is a very old friend of mine. He's one of the most amazing public speakers ever. He's an incredible orator. He's really exciting, but he's also kind of crazy. He's kind of crazy. He says the craziest things. But you know, when you go to one of his speeches, boy, you're going to come out like, that was awesome! Oh! So one of the speakers at the convention is Imam Siraj. Another speaker at the convention, I'm not going to name him, is a great scholar of hadith. He's an academic. He speaks like this. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Baqarah, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ألف لام ميم. And in the tafsir of Imam Al-Qurtubi on page number 435, the scholar is going to give a 5-hour lecture on hadith. And Imam Siraj Wahhaj is going to give a 20-minute speech. But his speech is always about, yeah! Like he can make you excited about anything. Imam Siraj can make you excited about anything. I was attending Imam Siraj's speech one time, and you know, he loves to tell stories about himself, because he was raised as a non-Muslim. He took Shahada later on in life, and he's telling a story. He goes, when I was a child, I had a dog. And one guy in the back goes, Takbir! He can make you excited about anything. By the way, after the speech of Imam Siraj, you're like, what did he talk about? I don't know. I think he had a dog though. You know. So now you have two friends, the hyperactive friend and this quiet, inquisitive, intellectual friend. Which one wants to go to Imam Siraj's speech? The hyperactive friend, let's go to Imam Siraj's speech, it's going to be awesome. And the inquisitive friend says, no, but we have to attend the 5-hour hadith seminar. I brought 5 pens with me so I can color code my notes. So they're both, all three of you are sitting in the 5-hour hadith lecture, narrated by Imam al-Bukhari. That lecture. What's happening to the hyperactive friend in this time? They're almost dead. You know? And then the whole thing is over. It's time for Imam Siraj's lecture. So the hyperactive friend turns to the quiet friend. He says, okay, I did your hadith lecture. Can we go to Imam Siraj Wahhaj's talk? And the intellectual friend goes, but I don't really learn anything at his lectures. I tried to take notes last time. All I have is he had a dog. I don't care. And then he says, then the intellectual friend says, okay, I'll attend the lecture, but what's the topic? And your hyperactive friend says, the topic is Imam Siraj Wahhaj is talking. Let's go. We're going. And he takes him to the lecture. And who's enjoying this lecture? The hyperactive friend. You have two different kinds of friends. Now I brought this up because there are different kinds of people, aren't there? People have different personalities. Were there different kinds of Sahaba? Sure. Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu was very quiet, very poetic, very philosophical, never really spoke unless he had to. Umar radiallahu anhu, before Islam, you know what he was busy doing? Riding horses, punching dudes. Like he was doing his thing. If the term gangster can be used for someone in Mecca before Islam, it would be for Umar radiallahu anhu. Even like someone like Hamza radiallahu ta'ala anhu. Before Islam, these people were not necessarily associated with sitting and reading, and they were busy having a good time. They were living life. They were hiking and they were fishing and they were horseback riding and they were wrestling and they were doing stuff. They're busy. You know how Abu Bakr as-Siddiq accepted Islam immediately? You know how long before Umar and Hamza accepted Islam? 6 years. 6 years! The question is, what are they doing for 6 years? They're doing stuff. They're busy, you know? They're busy. You have friends like this. You have friends that are very serious about their deen. You have other friends, they're good people, but they're just busy doing stuff. They're busy in sports, they're busy in games, they're busy on Facebook, they're busy just going on road trips and vacations, and they're just busy. And when you try to talk to them, they're too busy for it. Isn't that the case? You know, these ayat, they are an indication that there are different kinds of people. And some rocks, they explode on their own. And some rocks, it takes a while before they crack. The first kind of rock is a rock that explodes on its own and rivers come out. This is kind of like the heart of Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala anhu. It was already gushing with faith. By the way, water is a symbol of purity, and purity is associated with Iman. So Iman was already inside his heart. So when the rock opened up, there was what inside? Rivers of faith was already inside. Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu had potential Iman inside him the whole time. Did it come out easily? No, it took a while, but eventually that rock will crack, and when it cracks, what do you find inside it also? You find water inside there too. Faith was there too. You have some friends, you may not be able to change them through an intellectual argument or a 4-hour-long lecture or an 8-hour-long seminar. This may not be the place for them. But if they go to they watch a 5-minute YouTube clip, they listen to something for 3 minutes, their life changes. And there are some people who say, who needs this 3-minute stuff? This is not for the serious talibul ilm. I need something that's at least 2 hours. I need books, I need this, I need that. And for them, that's fine. But for other people, they need something much easier. You understand? And it might take a while before they crack open. And wallahi, there are some people, the only way that their heart opens up is when they're rattled, when they're shaken. And they can either be shaken by a powerful speech, or they can be shaken by a powerful event in their life. It could be a car accident. It could be something that happened at school. It could be a friend that passed away. Something happened and it shook them up and their life changed. There are people like that too. So the first kind of heart is the heart of ihsan. The second kind of heart is still the heart of iman. But the ayah does not have 2 rocks, it has 3 rocks. The first heart, ihsan. The second heart, iman. What do you think the third heart's going to be? Islam. Now the thing is, it's interestingly in the third heart that's mentioned, وَإِنَّ مِنْهَا لَمَا يَهْبِطُ مِنْ خَشْيَةِ اللَّهِ. Out of these stones, there are the kinds of rocks that fall apart, they fall down because of the fear of Allah, but Allah did not mention any water in the third heart. And what did water symbolize anyway? What did it symbolize? Faith. So it seems somehow when Allah talked about the heart that has Islam, He didn't mention the water, which is incredible because in Surah Al-Hujurat He let us know, وَلَمَّا يَدْخُلِ الْإِيمَانُ فِي قُلُوبِكُمْ. Iman has not entered your hearts yet. You're Muslim, but Iman hasn't entered yet. Your rock does not have water yet. Your rock does not have water yet. Just be patient, keep obeying Allah and His Messenger, keep trying, and eventually it will cultivate water. But right now it doesn't have it yet. But it still falls from the fear of Allah, just like the Muslim still falls in sajda from the fear of Allah. Now this entire parable, 3 kinds of people, the people of ihsan, the people of iman, and the people of Islam, 3 different kinds of personalities even you can say. This entire parable was given using rocks. The question then is, why use rocks? Why not use something else? Why not use something else? What did I say? What are the rules for a good example? It has to be easy to follow. 2, it has to be what? Relatable. This ayah belongs to Surah Al-Baqarah in the beginning. And in the beginning, Allah was talking to Bani Israel. And Bani Israel have a huge, big memory in their hearts and in their minds of water coming out of rocks when the 12 springs gushed open. So Allah chose an example that is easy for them to visualize. Because Allah gives examples that are relatable. And this was relatable to the Israelites. SubhanAllah. The perfection of examples in the Quran. And Allah is not aware of what you're doing. Allah is not